sequence of the topic. Give a sequence of the topic of this chapter deals with obsession. Again, a challenging and interesting topic. Cause that kind of a little bit take a different direction in this item 236, which is something that I have repeatedly say, and I think it's very important that we keep this in mind. So let's read and we'll talk about it. Who would like to do the reading for us?
You're going to continue?
I guess so. 246. There are obsessing spirits who are not evil, who are even quite good, but are dominated by the pride of false wisdom. They have their opinions and their own theories about the sciences, social economics, morality, religion, and philosophy. They wish to impose their opinion, and to do so, they seek out mediums that are sufficiently credulous to accept them with closed eyes, fascinating them to the degree that they can no longer distinguish between truth and falsehood. These are the most dangerous, for they do not vacillate in their sophistry and can impose the most ridiculous utopian ideas. Since they are fully knowledgeable of the prestige of famous names, they have no scruples about impersonating them and do not even balk before the sacrilege of calling themselves Jesus, the Virgin Mary, or some venerated spirit. They try to delude their victims by using pompous language that is more pretentious than profound, full of technical terms and highlighted with grandiose words such as charity and morality. They avoid giving evil counsels because they know that they would be rejected. Hence, those whom they deceive always defend them, affirming, "You can see very well that they have said nothing evil." However, for such spirits, morality is merely a passport. It is the least of their concerns. What they want more than anything else is to dominate and impose their ideas, no matter how truly absurd they are.
Sorry. So we create this idea in our mind, and I think it's kind of one of the cases in where it may be logical, but it's not reasonable. There's one of the cases that reason and logic does not go hand to hand, because it's kind of logical to say obsessors are evil spirits. Spirits are not good spirits. And it's not reasonable, it's not truthful. I have given the example of overprotecting mother that suffocates a son or a daughter, deny that spirit to go and makes its own mistakes, have its own life. That mother is an obsessor. It's an obsessor. It's doing it not out of evil. It's doing it out of ignorance. It's doing it. It's hard to say, but in truth, it's doing it out of pride. All those cases that you hear, that it just right over here, pride is the great motivator of they to follow that path of obsessing all these other individuals. So someone may become an obsessed, and that's where I always say, let's make sure that we are not one of those. That we are not out of our desire to impose our truth upon others, our desire to make people follow our directions the way we think it's right, that we don't become ourselves the obsessors. Very important. And an obsessor, and again, this is the medium's book. Kardec is guiding all the discussion uh, towards mediums, but the same is applied to everyone, to anyone else, right? Of course, being an ostensive medium, have this greater open window to the spiritual world, the likelihood of being more influenced is indeed a little bit higher than the average non-ostensive mediums that most of us are, or all of us are. Kardec says over here, they wish to impose their opinion. This, this is a very obvious statement of pride. If you wish to impose your opinion upon someone, it can only be for any other reason than other than pride, even though you disguise it in many different ways. And we all do that. And they will seek out mediums who are sufficiently credulous to accept them with closed eyes. And this is the biggest problem. Um, one of the things that we need to take in, when I was reading that, I was considering, we could say there is two types of mediums, right? The ones who know that they are mediums and those who do not know that they are mediums. And reason will let us believe that the mediums who do not know that they are mediums are outnumber the ones who know that they are medium, right? In order to know that you are a medium, you have to somehow encounter the topic of discussion of mediums and mediumship. You have to be open to the discussion and not reject it as an absolute impossibility. So the likelihood that there are more mediums who do not know they are mediums are greater than the numbers of mediums who know that they are mediums. And the reason that I'm saying this is because one individual may start having a very strong opinion about one or another subject. You start to follow a fanatic behavior towards one or another ideology or anything that you may think of that is somewhat not really comparable with that person, him or herself, usually. And that person may think that all of their ideas, all that positioning, all that fanaticism is 100% him or herself, when in reality, that person may be in the process of obsession from a discarnate spirit. And again, being a medium, you are more open to that influence. And if you are a medium and you have no idea that you are a medium, have no idea of mediumship, we can only think that you are thinking those thoughts, that everything that comes from you. So we can see here how we can, or can see the process of fascination is such a dangerous process. That individuals who have a good degree of common sense, they would not engage in things that would be harmful to others. All of a sudden, out of this fanaticism, when start to believe that I have to do this, I have to take my chances, and if it hurts others, let it be so. I have to fight this fight now. May be under a process of obsession, and if you don't know it, if you even know that you are a medium, we can see over here that it may be happening a lot more often than we imagine. And indeed, the spirits tell Kardec that it happens a lot more often than we can possibly imagine. Now, concentrating case of being a medium. Now, this medium gonna have to buy that idea that's being sold, right? An ostensive medium who knows that he or she is ostensive mediums and are receiving um, thoughts from a third party and does understand those thoughts from a third party, that person is responsible to have a good judgment, is responsible to keep their eyes open at all times. They're responsible to make sure, since they know they have that instrument in their hands, that they use it properly, that they use all the resources available to make sure that he or she is using that wonderful instrument the proper way. But again, and Kardec leaves very clear over here that they are very smart. They're those spirits who try to fascinate mediums. Again, they're not going to go to you and say, oh, I come from the devil and our job is to destroy everything. It's not going to work. A medium, let's say a medium who is familiar with the Spiritist doctrine, he'll say, you know, that's it. Our relationship is up now. I have nothing to do with you. But when it comes and say, I'm one of the groups of the spirits of truth. I was with Christ in the development of this doctrine, and we are following you very close because we see in you the potential of the exercise of charity to its highest degree, and you start to buy that idea. And along the way, it changed slightly the direction of the conversation. Something, yes, in the exercise of charity, we need to be very careful with the wrong ideas that has been brought by some of your colleagues, and we have to do things a little different here. At this point, you already sold, you are already in their hands. And when your friends come to you and say, what are you doing? I see some of the messages they received, hey, we read them, and did you see the content of it? It's something is fish over here. At this point, they won't be obsessed to say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm receiving that message. I know from whom, I know the truth that is written over here. To use other names. Again, when Chico Xavier asked André Luiz about a message that supposedly was received by another medium and it was signed by André Luiz, André Luiz's answer was very simple. There are many André Luiz out there. Again, for a medium of psychography, when he receives a message, he's not getting, an ID or a photo ID with which medium is that, which spirit, which spirit is that. The spirit come in, give a message and say, and sign underneath. Mother Teresa, it may sign the Virgin Mary, it may say it's a message for Paul of Tarsus. It's up to you, the medium, to evaluate very carefully. Is it possible? Nothing is impossible. I find very unlikely that the Virgin Mary will be given psychographies, but I could say that she could not, well, one time decide to do so. Why not? It could, but I would be extremely careful in taking that easily. I would have to really analyze and reanalyze and put all the pieces together, put it aside for a while before I jump in and publish those things, because I know that it's the likelihood of the Virgin Mary is so busy as she is, having so many resources, that the likelihood that she send one of her emissaries on one of those good works with her to bring her message to us, Makes a lot of more sense. It's much more like to happen. Again, I'm not going to say anything is impossible. But when you are in the degree of fascination, if it's signed over there, the Virgin Magnum, you do not question. It is, period. And that's it. And the spirits who are in this business to fascinate, to spread their ideologies out of pride or out of evil, they are extremely smart. They know which names to pick. They know which meters to pick. They know what buttons to push. They're not going to come here and say, we are here to destroy this doctrine. Well, that's the end of the conversation. We are out. You are out. The contrary, the community, we are here to really spread this beautiful doctrine. And once you buy that idea, once you put yourself in their hands, it becomes very hard for you to get out of that relationship. See, they try to delude their victims by using pompous language that is more pretentious than profound. This is extremely important. That's what I always say. It's a bunch of beautiful words, tremendous eloquent. When you first read it, you say, wow. And that's why you have to read it again. Because then you read it again, you take away the beautiful, eloquent words, and what is left very often is a completely nothing, empty, empty, empty. Or even worse yet, if you're really putting all the pieces together, you see there the flags that lead you to see that this is leading to direction contrary to what the doctrine teach in a very subtle ways, because they are not silly. And that's the importance of the medium, to be very, very, very careful with its receiving, especially if it's receiving continuously from the same spirit. We're going to see here that is possible, that is not always a problem, but it is another red flag. And if there has imperative statements, you must do this, you should do this, go and act like this, is a big red flag. And the spirits will know when is the time to use such imperative statements. In the beginning, they're not going to do it until they get you. Once they get you, then it becomes more of do this, act like such. And you do, because at this point you are already fascinated. Yeah, okay. Any questions? It's such a rich, small paragraph, has so much stuff over here that I know that I missed at least half of it here. It's extremely rich. It's almost every sentence here is extremely important.
I was a witness of this process. I saw this process happening, and the group only talked about Jesus, about Kardec, and about Joana de Angelis, and behind it, it was a whole, new doctrine that they wanted to create and impose. It was quite impressive how many people they were able to convince.
It is, and that's why we have as why this fidelity to Kardec and the doctrine. You must refer to the doctrine. You must refer to the books of the codification, and it has to be in accordance with the books of the codification. Otherwise, again, it's a big red flag. But once you become fascinated, you're not gonna see the discrepancies. You're not gonna see the going to a different line that is contrary or parallel or not together with the doctrine. And that's why always you must refer to Kardec, you must refer to the doctrine. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but then it's no longer spiritualism. Okay? Can do one more? You muted, Philip?
Sorry.
No
247. Theorizing spirits are nearly always scribblers, which is why they seek out mediums who write easily, attempting to make them their tamed and especially enthusiastic instruments through fascination. Such spirits are generally verbose and very prolix, seeking to make up for a lack of quality through quantity. They take pleasure in dictating to their interpreters voluminous, indigestible, and very often barely intelligible writings, which fortunately have as a side effect the material impossibility of being read by the masses. Truly high-order spirits are frugal with words, saying much in only a few lines. Prodigious fecundity should always be regarded with suspicion. One can never be too prudent when dealing with the publication of such writings. The utopian ideas and eccentricities that usually abound in them and which violate common sense elicit a very disagreeable impression in the novices who are taken in by them, giving them an erroneous idea about spiritism. They also serve as weapons for adversaries to ridicule it. Among such publications are those that, without being evil and without being characterized as obsession, can nevertheless be considered as imprudent, untimely, and incompetent.
Okay, thanks. So I think we covered this already. One very good technique for you to hide your true intentions, for you to hide your true ideologies, to hide the deviations that you want to impose upon a person, is to put that disguised in 1,000 words. So every time that someone spends four or five paragraphs that could have everything could be said in a half of a paragraph, it's a clear sign of that person not having the ability of expressing him or herself properly, perhaps just plain ignorance, inability to write or so. Or someone was trying to hide something in a jungle of words. And you're not going to see that in more elevated spirits. Elevated spirits will, if you ask them a question that the answer is A, you're going to get A, not a common more. If you want anything else, you're going to have another question. You see in the Spirit's book how many times Kardec has to have a B, C, D part of the same question. Because spirits, if you ask them something, he'll give that answer. You're not going to give the whys, they're going to give the other alternatives. If you're the why, then you're going to have to ask, oh, why is that? If you're an alternative, you're going to have to ask, is there another way this to be done? And then they will answer absolutely what you asked. No more, no less. They do not waste words. They're extremely frugal with their time, with words. You can see the complexity of the gospel of Christ is in there in one sentence. Emmanuel takes one sentence of the gospel and write a message that's 2 or 3 pages because of the depth of that one single sentence. Now, if we have some domain of the language and we are able to express our thoughts, let's say, in 5 paragraphs, but evolve the spirit, put that same thought in 1 paragraph. Which everything that I have said, and it required me 5 full paragraphs, they will do it 1. They have that ability. That is wonderful, but it requires that we develop the skill to break down that paragraph and get that message also, which it makes it a little bit difficult. And that's why in spiritual, a lot of people find spirituals difficult because of it. A lot of people find reading Emmanuel is hard. Reading Joana de Lange is very hard. Is because exactly that. They do not waste words. They are very frugal, and they will put tremendous amount of thoughts in very few words. And then we have to break that down and make harder for us. We're not as smart as they are. But it's their job to bring us to their level and not to downgrade themselves to our level. So we need to elevate ourselves. But that is a very good red flag clue for us to at least to be suspicious. Too many words, too many unnecessary words, too many beautiful words that are completely empty of a true message. And then try to find the message in that jungle of words sometimes becomes difficult, and that's how you get taken as well. Now, when a medium who claims to be an spiritist becomes fascinated and becomes to write and even worse to publish inadequate material come from an obsessor, it does compromise the doctrine. And there is a lot of enemies of the doctrine who loves to fight those things. Look, they say they are from Christ, but look what that medium who receive a message, look what was written. Let's break down this thing over here. It's a jungle of words. Let me show what's written over here. And they will show things that are completely in discrepancy with Christianity and in discrepancy with the doctrine itself. And they will use that. And that perhaps is the objective of some of those spirits, to do exactly that. Unfortunately, the ignorant masses, they will take that is ridiculous message as a representation of the doctrine. And any halfway intelligent person will see that if you want to see any representation of the doctrine, you're going to use the books of the codification. Even, I dare to say, the publications of the psychographies of Chico Xavier or Divaldo Pereira are not representatives of the doctrine. They are in my opinion, in complete fidelity with the doctrine. But if you want to know the doctrine, it's not through Chico Xavier or Emmanuel, it's through Kardec and the codification. Now, are you there to say that indeed all that is done in the psychographies of Chico Xavier, the psychographies of Divaldo Pereira Franco, is in accordance, is complete fidelity with Kardec, with the doctrine. But it's not a representation of it. If you want to know the doctrine, you go into the books of codification, not to the books of psychographies of Emmanuel, of Chico Xavier, or Divaldo Pereira Franco. Halfway intelligent person, you know that, but the unfortunately big masses, you'll not. They'll take a psychography that is done by someone, some Dan Joe who claims to be an spiritist, and say, and gonna take that piece of garbage as a representation of the doctrine. And that's a big risk that the doctrine takes. And that's another tremendous importance and necessity of a medium educate him or herself. And of course, talking about education of the heart, right? To have the humbleness to not be a target of those obsessors. Comments, questions? Let's read some more.
248. It frequently happens that a certain medium can only communicate with one particular spirit who connects itself with him or her and responds on behalf of other spirits. This does not always represent an obsession, since it may result from such a medium's lack of flexibility and from a special affinity on his or her part with this or that spirit. Obsession per se only exists when a spirit imposes itself and willingly drives others away, which is never done by a good spirit. Normally, spirits who latch onto mediums in order to dominate them do not bear up under a critical examination of their communications. When they see that such communications are not blindly accepted, but are submitted to discussion, they do not leave their mediums. Instead, they suggest the thought to them that they should avoid others, and quite often they order them to do so. All mediums who feel offended at criticisms of their communications are in fact echoing a spirit dominating them. And such a spirit cannot be good, since it inspires them with the illogical thought of rejecting scrutiny. It is always harmful to mediums to isolate themselves because there is no control mechanism for their communications. They should not only receive clarification from third parties, but should also study all the forms of communication in order to compare them. By limiting themselves to those they receive, no matter how good they may seem, they remain exposed to being deceived as to their true value. They should also consider the fact that they cannot know everything and that they always go round and round within the same circle of ideas. See number 192.
Thanks. So as I already said before, one of the methods to create and perpetuate a fascination is by isolation. So very often, a spirit who wants to fascinate a medium will kind of block that mediumship to make it exclusive for him or her as a spirit. Will push away the spirits who's trying to approach for communication, who will influence the medium to not accept anyone else, to have exclusive rights to that medium, so to say. Having said that, there may be some cases in which a medium is receiving communication from one and only spirit and may not be a fascination. It may just be the lack of flexibility of that medium, may just be very special kind of bonding of affinity between those two individuals, spirit and the medium, that they kind of choose to have that relationship of themselves and continue to work in that manner. It is a big red flag regardless. Okay, it has to be evaluated regardless. And once you reach the conclusion that no, it's not an obsession, is the way that they like to work, fine. But it has to be scrutinized. You have to be make sure that it's cool for that to continue to happen. An obsession per se, Kardec says over here, only exists when a spirit imposes itself and willingly drive others away, which never done by a good spirit. So in general, if a medium is working with good spirits, this exclusivity will not happen, or if it happens, be extremely rare. We can see the ones that we have example, how many spirits did Chico Xavier worked with. Not only the ones that he published, only the number of several spirits that he published is a huge number. I don't know the number, but it's a huge number of different spirits that he published. But there are the others that he did not publish. And that would be in the number of thousands for sure. If only books publishes is close to 500, all the messages that was not published would easily be way, in the thousands. Many different spirits. Was an open instrument for those who wants to work for the good, or for those who wants to give a message to someone. I mean, received message from very average spirits who's trying to pass a message to our loved ones, things like that. So it was open channel to assist in many different ways. If there is the exclusive behavior, you have to be careful, because they want to create that isolation, because they want to limit your the ability of their work to be scrutinized, to be evaluated by others. And that is a big sign of pride from both the spirit and, of course, of the medium. Once the medium is not willing to have its work being evaluated by others, it's again a very big flag, and it's a very good indication of the pride of that medium. Yeah, I think that covers everything else. Anybody else has a comment? Okay, you can continue then.
Means of combating obsession. The means of combating obsession vary depending on the characteristics in which it appears. There is no real danger for all mediums who are good and convinced that they are dealing with a deceiving spirit, which is the case in simple obsession. It is nothing more to them than a disagreeable situation. However, precisely by being disagreeable, such spirits have one more reason to persecute their victims in order to humiliate them. Two essential measures must be taken by mediums in such a case: prove to the spirit that they have not been fooled by it, and that it is impossible that they will allow themselves to be fooled. Second, tire its patience by showing it that they have more patience than it has. When it is convinced that it is wasting its time, it will end up withdrawing, just as in the case of importune individuals when no one will listen to them. Nonetheless, this is not always enough. and such spirits can linger for a long time. There are some who are so tenacious that months and years mean little to them. Furthermore, mediums must fervently appeal to their guardian angel and the good spirits with whom they have affinity, praying for their assistance. As for the obsessing spirit, no matter how evil it may be, it is necessary to deal with it strictly, but at the same time benevolently, overcoming it with goodness and praying for it. If it is a truly wicked spirit, it will at first laugh at all this, but perseveringly submitted to a process of moralization, it will end up emending itself. It is a conversion to be undertaken, an often painful, difficult task, but whose merit is in its very difficulty. And when it has been well performed, it always brings the satisfaction of having fulfilled a duty of charity and frequently of having brought a lost soul back to the path of goodness. It is also worthwhile to suspend written communications when we realize that they proceed from an evil spirit who does not want to see reason in order not to give it the pleasure of being heard. In certain cases, it may even be worthwhile to stop writing altogether for some time, depending on the particular circumstances. However, if writing mediums can thus avoid such conversations by abstaining from writing, the same cannot be said of hearing mediums whom obsessing spirits sometimes persecute at every instant with gross and obscene blathering, and who do not have the option of plugging their ears. Moreover, we must realize that certain individuals are actually entertained by the trivial language of this type of spirit, who encourages and provokes them to laugh at its silliness, rather than imposing silence upon it and guiding it morally. Our counsels cannot be applied to those who want to drown themselves.
Thanks. Means of combating obsession. I think if you will put it in a very simple way, is the self-education, the self-transformation of the spirit is the only therapy that really will create that armor of protection from any source of obsessors trying to use us as an instrument for their own agenda. But let's think of in case of simple obsession, in which the spirits are there for the fun. They're just trying to disrupt you. They're not really carrying a big agenda. They're just perturbing. It's easy to notice. It's easy to perceive that there is an outside thought being disruptive, and it's therefore easy to get rid of them. Just be smarter than them, just be stronger than them, just persevere or not following their goals, and they'll go somewhere else. They'll do something else. They are not just as smart as you are. They're just not as patient as you are. It goes away. No, it's almost like a common cold. You catch, you persist on it, you do what you have to do, and the cold eventually goes away. Your immune system will win always, basically. In the case of a more deep kind of obsessions, or when the obsessor has a agenda, he has a plan, something well structured, it's difficult because now someone comes with a plan, someone kind of knows you, knows how to get to you, and be extremely patient, wait in the right time, will surround you with praises and everything for a long time, and be quite patient to get what they want to get. And even if you show your resistance, they may not go away immediately. They will try. They're over there. Cadex is over here. But they need for months and years because they have nothing else. They are almost like this one mind, one idea, only this mind, that the objective is to get you to be an instrument to spread the ideologies, whatever they want to do it. That they have nothing else to do. They can persist and they have a plan, they have an objective, and they'll be very good at that. What is that for the media today to do? Besides, of course, doing that part, exercising humbleness and exercise of charity, pray. You know, if you medium, you know you have a guardian angel, you know you have protecting spirits, you know you have loved ones who wants to help you. Be humbled, pray, ask for assistance. Be patient, continue doing the work. And if you do so, if you're able to overpower that spirit's energies and continue the pathway of goodness, then you almost like you reverse the process. You become the educator, and that spirits may learn and indeed will learn from you because, again, love is irresistible and love will overpower anything that is contrary to it. So, in the process of educating ourselves as a medium, as and sticking to what's right and you know what's right, we not only educate ourselves and elevate ourselves, you bring along our obsessors. That it's likely most of us have a couple around us at a time. When we persist in goodness, when you resist the temptations and we go stick to the right pathway, then we become an educator. We become a positive influence, and instead of being a subject at the hand of that obsessors want to be, this obsessor will learn, will gain something, and you give you that satisfaction of exercising charity to the highest possible level and benefiting tremendously from it, of course. Kardec suggests that for psychography, if that perturbation becomes so difficult, becomes so imposing, one option is stop writing. Do not get into a mediumistic trance. Do not engage in psychography. Give it some time, perhaps spiritual treatment and a spiritist center, perhaps going to the books of meditations or of the books of the codification, and use that as an instrument to elevate yourself and vibrate on a higher level in which that obsessor cannot reach you for psychography. Take a break. Take a break. If that can be done for mediums of psychography, Kardec says over here, it cannot do to hearing mediums. Because you cannot shut off the ears of your perispirit. You can stop writing. You can perhaps even shut the ears of the physical ears with some instrument, but the perispiritual ears you can't, because there is not a real perispiritual here. We're here with the whole perispiritual has been taught to us, right? And if it's a mediumistic hearing, it's not done with the physical ears, right? Then it becomes pretty much impossible. Now you can see over here to be a very difficult trial, a very difficult challenge for one to overcome, because it's there 24/7. You cannot plug that ear. It is indeed has to be one of the most difficult trials that is imposed upon us, to have that ears open to hear your enemies 24/7, or anytime that they want to bother you. You cannot run away from them. Again, the only solution is the education of both. Here, our work on this obsession is absolute imperative. Individuals should seek a spiritual center who is able to provide this process of this obsession, which is a process of education of both individuals to resolve this problem. Or this individual may end up in a psychiatric institution because the torment is so continuous and persistent that may lead to true psychiatric problems. I'm going to stop here. We still have another 5 minutes. Not enough to complete this because it's deep. Any comments? Any questions?
In theory, it's clear and easy to understand. In practice, it's such hard topic, such hard subject to deal with.
I was thinking the same thing I was reading the first time around, that it's okay, you read this, it's like, oh, so large, so obvious, it's not a big deal. But I think someone who is living this process must be so extremely complex, especially for the hearing ones. You even start to imagine. And our transformation is extremely difficult, to leave aside the vices, the temptations, the things that we'll be doing, perhaps for multiple reincarnations, and all the sum take a different path. Easier said than done. And if it was that easy, there would be no planet Earth, because we will all be in a much better place already. We are here because we have all those difficulties to overcome those vices. And as exactly those vices that the obsessors target to have as a little puppets on their hands. And there is no other way but education. Okay. Can you make our prayers? Carrie would like to make a final prayer for us.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, Elmo. That was really a great class. Infinite Creator, all goodness and grace, we are grateful for our studies this evening of the Medium's book, our topic of obsession. Obsession and fascination are red flags in mediumship. Discernment is needed in evaluating spirit communications. Mediums can be assisted by other mediums to analyze and to discuss the spirit communications. However, isolation is harmful because a deceiving spirit could continue to do so. could continue to try to control a medium or to negatively dominate a medium. An educated medium is the very best. An educated medium will perceive the red flags. Vigilance and persistence is certainly necessary. We should pray and be humble and ask for assistance and protection. As we study and do good, we also must be very careful. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors who are here with us, helping us and protecting us, guiding us and helping us to be vigilant. We humbly ask for safety and protection, and we humbly give thanks to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the helpers, the teachers, and those who are assisting us daily. We give thanks for all the blessings that we have received, and may we continue to open our hearts and our minds to receive the blessings that are available to us. We are grateful for the teachers, for the directors, the helpers, the healers, and the mediums who are with us at SGNY. May Spiritism continue to flourish in this, not only this year as it remains, but in the new year of 2022. May we go forward with an uplifted heart and mind, and may we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us. As we close now, we give thanks, and we give thanks to all those who are participating this year, those who are continuing to be affiliated with SGNY, and may we all do our very best. May we help those around us, especially our family, our loved ones, and those who we come in contact on a regular basis. We are never alone, and there is always a deep goodness if we search it out and really try to uphold that vibration. We give thanks, and may we close now and ask for the love, light, and peace of Christ to be with us, and may we all share a wonderful holiday of Christmas and the upcoming New Year together. May we close now and remind ourselves to be beacons of light. Go forth now in peace and in gratitude, so be it.